If you want to read better and think more clearly and understand the ideas shaping our world, then this might be for you. You should join the Dr. John Patrick Book Club. It's a private online community where we read great books together and learn how to think, not just what to think. Inside, you're going to have access to Dr. John Patrick as we work through books and ask questions. If you've ever felt like there are books you should be reading or ideas that you want to understand better, but you didn't want to do it alone, this is a good place to start. You can find the link in the show notes or the description below to join.
Hello, my name is John Patrick, and I'm a retired pseudoscientist, so to speak, and I spend my time reading, thinking, writing, and talking about ethics, culture, faith, and public policy. And I'm delighted that some of you seem to find it helpful. My voice is bad today, so I may bail out at some point, but Craig tells me it's good enough, so we'll see how it goes. I've just come back from a week in Alberta, arranged by the local CMDA group, or more precisely by one guy, Doug, lovely man, and his wife, who'd provided the hospitality, Leanne. It was a good week for me, but also, I suppose, a sad one in a way, in that the problem for the church that there are not enough people reading seriously is something that really has to be addressed. Yet there's a good side too from this week. I mean, one of the side events was having dinner with a young man and his father, and he hasn't finished high school yet, but he listens to his podcast and he's asking good questions. The problem is, where is he going to find an environment that will help him to do that, to develop that good instinct? The other wonderful thing about the week was that there were 3 Augustine graduates who formed part of it. Oh, I appear to have done something silly, and the picture has disappeared for a moment. I hope that it's only brief. One was a medical student who arranged a meeting with her contemporaries, which was very interesting to me. They were serious, they engaged. They were only a small proportion of the class, but they were serious. They knew the world was not going to get easier. The next one, I was invited to go to Concordia University in Edmonton, and I went to give a lecture, but based around a discussion of the problems that are going to arise increasingly from the acceptance by the medical profession that they can kill patients, MAID, euthanasia. And the third was a resident who's doing extremely well in cardiology. The world is his oyster, I think, but it's not going to be an easy world. The other thing that happened during this week is wonderful hospitality, kindness. One throwback a long, long way. A guy I've known forever, one of the most thorough physicians I've ever known, I think, who had some missionary interests and also climbing. He's a year older than me, so we're both very definitely past our prime. But it was lovely to have a dinner with him alone and be able to reminisce and think about what we could have done better and what our prayers should be about now. So lots of things to think about. But the good news first. On the way there, I had a totally unmanipulated conversation that went on for well over an hour with a very nice a woman who sat next to me about the realities of life and how they're working out. That came up again during the week. I mean, the failure of our world to affirm the different roles we have in it is really hurting women a lot. I mean, the ones who regretfully didn't have children at all, or didn't have as many as they wish they would have. Very sad. Grandchildren without grandmothers are impossible. But that interaction is one of the most beautiful things I watch in my life, and many people are not going to have that. And of course, if we don't change our view, we will disappear. We will be replaced, not by a Judeo-Christian society, but by one driven by economic forces, and if the worst came to the worst, a dangerously violent jihadist groups. Because one of the other things I came across this week was a very good YouTube by Raymond Ibrahim about how we should think about Islam. They've told us what they're going to do. Really serious Muslims won't come to our country, because if they're really committed to Islam, it's very clear they're told to have nothing to do with infidels. So the ones who come, perhaps almost certainly for money in the first place, are going to be very regretful Muslims. And the only way they can actually rationalize within the Muslim culture coming to the West is to do violent jihad. They shouldn't come to build us up, but to take us down. I mean, the difference between Jeremiah writing to the Jews, and they were sent into exile for their behavior, was settle down and contribute to the local community, the government. Build it up, don't knock it down. And I will bring you back when you've learnt your lesson, which you did. But that's not what the Quran teaches. Everyone is to bend the knee to Allah. That's difficult. So all these things are going on in the background. And then I get back exhausted last night, and I got up this morning and picked up the newspaper while I was drinking my coffee, the Weekend National Post. And there was, much to my amazement, two full pages on a book that is to be published later this month about, can liberalism survive? Because liberalism could only actually arise out of a Judeo-Christian culture. And the writer is spelling that out. And he goes back to Locke, and nasty, brutish, and short. You know, that's a well-known statement, but he makes a very convincing case that liberalism didn't come out of the rejection of Christianity. It came out of not even thinking about how much it was drawing from Christianity. It's patently obvious that we are not all born equal. That's a statement of hope based on a theological premise. We're equal before God. We're certainly not equal amongst one another. And you only have to see the way people are being exploited all over the world to see that that is true. But he lays it out in a way that I haven't seen done as well as he's done it, and I shall be reading that book. And he said, from Locke onwards, they saw there were always some people there, including the French, that a secular world would not work because it didn't have a rational base to get to the things that we deeply want to know and want to have. I mean, with the students this last week, as usual, when I asked about the Georgetown mantra, which is the basis for medical ethics teaching in the university, As always, no sign of real change. When you look at the mantra, autonomy, justice, beneficence, non-maleficence, is any one more foundational than the other? And there's a sort of unknowing look. And only with a great deal of coaxing do I get them to recognize that if there is nothing that you will not do, you are not very predictable. A society actually, ironically and surprisingly, for its stability depends upon legitimate intolerance, not tolerance. I forget who it was who said it, but it was this: an honourable man is made complete by what he will not do. Oh, he could not have done that. And knowing that it's an absolutely true statement is wonderful. And it's a starting point. But they all start, as the modern world does, with autonomy. And in the liberal world, it's already got away from individuals and it's going down now to identity groups. And that can only fracture society. So we are in deep trouble. And the illiteracy, in this particular article, he also mentioned something else that I missed, a study which showed that between America and Britain, which showed that reading serious literature has been going down by 3% or so every year since 2020. That is frightening, because that puts it down in very low figures already. But it fits with my experience. Everywhere I go, people have not read anything that's really turned them on, because not only are they not reading, because of their use of screens and the like, their concentration span is a fraction of what it used to be. So they read something and then the next day it's gone. Now, I'm getting old, so my skills in every area are getting worse. I learned a week or two back that most of my posterior columns in my spinal cord are not working very well, which explained what was happening to the way I walk. Not yet got any pathology, but it's high. We'll see what happens. But I can still read, and in most cases, if it's worth remembering, I can remember a considerable amount. And I was taught how to take it apart and think through what the really important statements were, and begin to put the book into the whole range of books that I've read, and for it to find its place, whether it will come up to the top, where there are very few, or sink out of sight, which happens even to books that at the time I enjoyed greatly, and then realized, I've been sold a pup. But it takes time. That kind of exercise is not common anymore. And that's going to be very frightening for the future. So, that's what made so delightful having a meal with a young man still in high school who listens to this podcast, because he's got some inclination. He has some intuition that there's something important there and that something has got lost. And it has, of course. That article in the National Post is built around John Locke, who, without any question, he is one of the fathers of modern liberalism. But unlike most of the current so-called liberals, he understood completely that liberalism was dependent upon two ideas if it was going to work, that are both Judeo-Christian. That we're made in the image of God, we know what is good and evil, and that we are fallen creatures. Now we're in denial about those, but we want to keep the benefits. That simply will not happen. So I've got a lot to think about this week, and you need some good news. And there is some good news. I also came across the United States Supreme Court decision to bring back school prayer, that it is not an imposition, and that it can be done in a way that shouldn't be seen that way. I mean, to deny that there's any place for prayer in school is to impose a secular view of the world. And as I've been trying to show you very briefly and indicate to you where you should go to look at it some more, that secular world will not produce the world we want. It will destroy it, which it is doing, aided by the technology of screens, which everywhere I go, I see the evidence that this is utterly destructive. You've got to take charge of your screen time, and especially of your children. It destroys their concentration span. They don't have anything that could be looked upon as building an intellectual structure worthy of a human life. That's where we're at. The churches are the same. I went to a Lutheran church on Sunday morning, and it was a traditional service, and then there were 2 services to follow. But the average age of this traditional service is certainly over 70. Think about that. Praise songs do not a mind preserve or make. Inhabiting the Bible and a liturgy will certainly serve you better at the end of your life than the kind of music, a lot of which lasts a few weeks. It's not something you build a life on. Compare the Psalms. I mean, the more you read them, the more you get out of them. And more importantly, you know where to go on a bad day. The whole of human life is at least alluded to in the Psalms, and responses to it are illustrated, and thereby you develop character. So, as I said, I got back somewhat tired. My neck doesn't like flying anymore. So, as you can hear from my voice, I have a minor respiratory thing going on. So I'm going to stop at this point, very short this week, but there's quite a lot in there for you to develop. And I hope increasingly there will be interactive correspondence, because that's the really profitable bit. So go and think. Find that article in the National Post. I think it's the best newspaper in North America anyway, so you should know about it. But in the Saturday edition, there's a 2-page article. I think the man's name is Bonner, but you can't miss it. So go in peace.